I hope Ukraine moves quickly because Russia's there. And, every time they take too much time, then Russia...
The member states have agreed to finance the Ukraine through EU borrowing on the capital markets for an amount of 90 billion euros for the next 2 years.
The European Union has announced a $105 billion equivalent interest-free loan package for Ukraine, designed to support both its military and economic needs as the war continues. According to EU officials, this new financing is structured to cover Kyiv's core military and budgetary expenditures for roughly the next 2 years, offering medium-term stability rather than short emergency tranches. However, European leaders failed to reach consensus on directly using frozen Russian state assets as collateral or a funding source for the loan, reflecting deep legal and political divisions inside the bloc. Instead, the EU will raise the money by borrowing on capital markets, issuing joint debt that is secured against the EU's common budget and then channeled to Ukraine as interest-free support.
Dear Ursula, dear Meta, good evening. We committed and we delivered. In October, we decided that the European Union would cover Ukraine's pressing financial needs for 2026 and 2027. Last week, we decided that Russia would not get its assets back until Moscow ends its aggression. Today, we approved a decision to provide 90 billion euros to Ukraine for the next 2 years. As a matter of urgency, we will provide a loan backed by the European Union budget. This will address the urgent financial needs of Ukraine. And Ukraine will only repay this loan once Russia pays reparations. The Union reserves its right to make use of the immobilized asset to repay this loan. At the same time, we gave a mandate to the Commission to continue working on the reparation loan based on Russian immobilized assets. On top of that, we have agreed to roll over our sanctions against Russia. Our goal is not to prolong the war. In fact, today's decisions are a crucial contribution to achieve a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. Because the only way to bring Russia to the negotiation table is to strengthen Ukraine. Today's decisions will provide Ukraine with the necessary means to defend itself and to support the Ukrainian people. The message we are sending to Russia today is crystal clear. First, you have not achieved your objectives in Ukraine. Second, Europe stands with Ukraine today, tomorrow, and as long as necessary. Third, Russia must come to the negotiation table in a serious way and accept that it will not win this war. Because the only way forward is a ceasefire and a negotiated peace. Our political and financial support to Ukraine will not falter in war, in peace, in reconstruction. We are committed to building a free and prosperous Ukraine within the European Union.
On one hand, we proposed EU borrowing on the market, and on the other hand, we had developed the reparations loan. Very important was in our discussion that last week already on Friday, we had sent a very clear and strong political message by immobilizing the Russian assets in the European Union over the long term. So that message was very clear. And building on that, we today had then agreed to find a solution for the financing of Ukraine in the next 2 years. The member states have agreed to finance the Ukraine through EU borrowing on the capital markets for an amount of 90 billion euros for the next 2 years. We will do this by way of enhanced cooperation that is backed by the EU budget headroom and based on an unanimous agreement to amend the MFF. Similarly to the reparations loan, very important here, Ukraine would only need to pay back the loan once it receives reparations. Until then, the immobilized Russian assets will remain immobilized, and the Union reserves its right to make use of the cash balances to finance the loan. This is the solution we found together, and as discussed in the last weeks, financing Ukraine beyond 2027 will then be part of the next MFF discussion.
In this European Council, we will reach unanimity to ensure immediately this loan that clarify that we have a clear solution to support Ukraine, and at the same time we can continue to work on to address all the legal, technical issues that we need to address to implement the reparation loan.
So we had a very clear goal that was securing the financing for Ukraine. That is the utmost importance. 90 billion for 2 years. If we would not have had this tasking to put on the table two options for the financing for Ukraine, my guess is we would not have had the courage or the political momentum to permanently immobilize the Russian assets. That's the big win. Because, as you know, before that, every 6 months there was a threat that just one member state not agreeing to the sanctions anymore, the rollover of the sanctions, the immobilized Russian assets would have been gone. Now they are secured for good and can only be mobilized again with a qualified majority. So that was, I think, the most important part in it.
Officials emphasize that the financial obligations of Hungary, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic will not increase under this arrangement, a key point to win over more skeptical governments. Hungary in particular has opposed schemes that involve directly financing Kyiv through new common borrowing or using frozen Russian assets, arguing that such steps go beyond existing agreements. Belgium has also voiced resistance to any loan explicitly secured against Russia's frozen assets held in its financial system, warning of serious legal risks and potential challenges in international courts. Meanwhile, the German Chancellor has suggested that Ukraine should only be required to repay this EU support if Russia eventually pays war reparations to Kyiv, effectively linking repayment to Moscow's future liability. If Russia refuses to pay reparations, EU politicians such as Friedrich Merz have argued that the bloc would then be justified in turning to frozen Russian assets to cover Ukraine-related costs, according to The Guardian's reporting. On the diplomatic track, Donald Trump said on December 18th that negotiations to end the war in Ukraine are getting close to something, hinting at possible movement in talks involving US and Russian representatives. The US president has also publicly urged Ukraine to act quickly in these negotiations, warning that if Kyiv delays, Russia could change their mind as battlefield dynamics evolve.
Mr. President, there's a meeting this weekend on Ukraine in Florida. What are you hoping will come out of that meeting?
Well, they're getting close to something, but I hope Ukraine moves quickly. I hope Ukraine moves quickly because Russia's there. And, every time they take too much stand, then Russia changes their mind. 27,000 soldiers were killed last month. Think of that. What do you think of that, doctors? 27,000. It's like a half a football stadium were killed in 1 month. And it's that way. It's anywhere between 20 and 30,000. Mostly soldiers. Also some people from Kyiv and other places. But largely it's the soldiers. They're losing their lives. Nobody's ever said anything like it's the worst since World War II. And you've heard me say I settled 8 wars, some going on for 35 years, one going on for 37, one going on for 32, and 8 wars, and I thought this would be an easier one. This is because of the animosity, the hatred, it's a little bit more difficult than we thought, but there's a chance we can get this done maybe soon.
Sir.
Remember that 25 to 30,000 people being killed a month, young people being killed a month.